stay focused on the vision for the future school. No trust, no unity, no progress. Mission, Clever Garden School, foster community, generate enthusiasm, challenge students academically, and produce successful citizens.
Everyone had a chance to review the agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Ms. Russell, second. Ms. Merle, all in favor? And the minutes for May 14th, 2024, has everyone had a chance to review those? Do I have a motion to approve the May 14th? Ms. Foster, second. Mr. Young, all in favor? Ms. Reagan, do we have any stakeholders or public comment?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. That takes us to finances. So we have the May 2024 budget that was in the drive. Has everyone been able to look at that? And Ms. Lane, have you had a chance to review any concerns or additions?
No concerns.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the May 2024 budget? Ms. Lane, second. Mr. Young, all in favor? That moves us to academics, policy and procedures. Ms. Simmons.
So just put in the drive. So y'all, yeah, it's not been in there, I'm sorry. But some policies and procedures, updates, they're very, very minor this year. Some of these were policies that were approved throughout the 23-24 school year. So I just wanted to remind everybody that they are going into policies and procedures. So, we added the SB 49 that was already approved this year, respiratory illness update, that was approved this year as well. The fitness policy that was approved. Here's three small changes that were added to the policies and procedures, or that we like to propose to add. One is under personal leave, under section 301. Employees that are hired after October 1st of the school year are not entitled to personal days. So currently right now, personal days, we give 3 each year. But we would just like to propose if you're hired after a certain a time frame, they're not just a given, because they accrue sick time already. These are just 3 personal days and they don't carry over.
So like prorating it for however long the year.
By the hire date.
By the hire date, okay.
Well, it wouldn't even be a prorate. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. It would, if you're hired before, so if you work 3/4 of the year and more, you're entitled to that benefit of 3 personal days. If you work less than that, which will be after October 1, then you're not entitled to those 3 personal days.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I might not have explained that.
No, you're good.
We do prorate sick time, so that is but that's
Okay.
already in there. But I would just like to
It's just those 3 days.
propose to change that. The other proposal is, currently right now for our salaried non-exempt employees, we have, come up with a timesheet correction and kind of a, policy around it. So employees who miss in out time, a link punch, are required to complete this timesheet correction form. And then it must be completed and submitted to HR, and then incomplete forms will not be accepted. And then we will, human resources will keep a record in the employee's file. So it's just adding a form that versus an email of what they normally send us. Hey, I missed a punch, we're trying to, this was their first year. So we, allowed a lot of grace and all that because it was very new to the staff and everything, the ones that were affected by this change. So we're adding a form for them to officially fill out.
Makes sense. Is it paper or is it like on a shared drive or online?
It's a paper form.
Okay.
To go in their file, but yes.
Okay.
And then lastly, update our bereavement policy or to clarify. So I'd just like to add where it says that bereavement is a benefit for under regular scheduled work or regular, can I get the word out? Regular scheduled days. I just like to clarify what regular scheduled days are and just add that those are considered in-session school days. That's just a clarity. And those are the three that I'm presenting to the board to add or change to the policies and procedures.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on these policies? Concerns? Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the presented updates for the policies and procedures? Ms. Merle, second. Mr. Huffines, all in favor? Staff handbook updates, Ms. Bracken.
All right, so these are in, the board folder. There are a couple of additions that are not in there, that we got there since then, so I will shout those out. Like I said, very minimal, just trying to tighten up some of the things that we have. So staff handbook revisions, as you can see from that bullet point list, we'll do staff handbook first. Just some minor updates with dates, administration, like principal information. We are updating the staffing reporting times. We are gonna push those back by about 30 minutes. So we updated those. Updated expectations, Brandy just talked about this, about the hourly employees and punching out. We added where students need to report if they're feeling ill. We updated some Canvas expectations for our teachers in grades K through 12. That got a little gray this year. So trying to clean that up a little bit so they know what their expectations are. Updated staff dress code to reflect what we updated with the student dress code requirements. Updated some staff use of cell phones during the school day. Updated again, more just volunteering requirements, things like that we had from the teachers. Trying to see, we added a contraband policy, which Brady kind of already spoke to. Meeting times, add the personal leave, update in there for late hires. Updated some report card progress report dates. Updated some procedures for arrival for students in the mornings on the, specifically on the K-8 campus. Again, some staff expectations for completing attendance. Added some safety information to our emergency procedure section. Updated the mileage reimbursement rates to reflect the most current year. Had some updated procedures for deadlines to submit fundraising events, to make sure we can get that on the master calendar ahead of time. Not adding things to the calendar at the last minute. Clarified some expectations for some of our staff members that also double as parents, what their roles are on field trips. Updated the sub pay amounts. We had a homebound services policy that was listed in the handbook, which just kind of felt out of place, so we moved it to policies and procedures. You've probably seen a lot of updates in the news and things like that, but they've updated the professional standard of conduct for educators. So we want to make sure that that's updated. That hadn't been updated since like the 90s. So the state updated that. So we're going to update ours too. And then you already heard her talk about the bereavement policy updates. And that's pretty much it for the staffing updates. Questions about that?
I don't have anyone else.
I did, but I can't find where. Oh, the contraband policy and procedures for staff. Can you remember what that is? Contraband policy and procedures for staff when exposed to a potential issue with students. Is it telling staff what to do? Like a layout of procedure? Okay.
It used to be just administration was dealt with that before, and we have a policy for, how to collect it, where to store it, and how to get rid of it. So now it's making sure the teachers and substitutes and anybody that's in the classroom knows what that policy and procedure is too. Got it. Okay.
Okay, any questions? Any other questions? I have a motion to approve the updated staff handbook. Mr. Young, second, Ms. Merrill. And then do I have a motion to approve the parent-student handbook updates.
Not parent student, haven't done that yet.
Oh,
Staff handbook.
just the staff. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, that was next.
Vote.
Okay.
That one.
You ready?
Vote.
No, we don't have to vote. She has to review it first.
For the staff handbook, you got a motion and a second.
Oh, yeah.
So the minutes, I'll need to vote for the staff and a separate one for student and parent.
So,
You have a motion and a second.
We need to vote.
And
We did
now,
both vote, yeah.
but I thought you hadn't, okay.
for the staff,
For the staff handbook,
yes.
we have
A
a
motion.
motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
All right, so this one is the student parent handbook. Not a lot of major changes here, just updating and tightening up some of our, procedural things. I'll start kind of reverse. So the code of conduct was a big piece this year. You guys, I've already reported to you about discipline and how that blew up this year. So we have had lots of requests. This was the first year we used the tiered approach code of conduct. So this year, everybody's request, say everybody, we had a lot of feedback that wanted us to go back to the way it was, the old code of conduct that we had a year prior. So just trying to update the one that we had, and kind of removing the tiered level approach and then, kind of increasing some of the consequences, things like that for, infractions and repeated infractions. So code of conduct, like I said, we removed kind of the tiered level approaches. We removed minor incidents. So a lot of times, kids would get in trouble and they would, it's horseplay, which had a lesser infraction, which we always knew would lead to more severe situations. So we removed the minor incident section from the code of conduct and then took those out, those sections specifically and moved them to another part of the code of conduct. So those that have been with us for a while, it'll look very similar to our years past code of conduct. Some of the suspensions we updated, we did use a tiered consequence of, a lot of times you would see a 3 to 5 day home suspension. So we added a couple of layers in there. So like a first offense, 3 to 5, 5 to 7 and 10, depending on the severity of the situation. We removed some verbiage that talked about fighting. There was an exclusion that said, it was not okay unless it was in self-defense. So we just took that out altogether. That terminology wise. We added a section, we had some issues this year with cell phones, being used during assessments. And there was a lot of issues with that with our honor code. So we added not being able to use your cell phones or unauthorized electronic devices. So we've had a lot of new things this year, such as AI and things like that we're combating with, the computers and electronic devices. So we have to spell that out for the kids. We added some verbiage. We just kind of moved some things around. We had culturally insensitive language. We just moved that into the same kind of category along with profanity. Added a stronger consequence for PDA. We noticed a little bit of a difference since high school was off campus and didn't have little ones around. So we kind of tightened that up a little bit. Dress code violation, same thing, kind of added some offenses there. Unfortunately, we had some issues this year with kids pantsing each other. So we wanted to tighten up the infractions for behavior like that. We added some consequences for skipping. And then we just updated the grievance policy. It hadn't been updated since, the year prior. So, we updated it to the correct grievance policy. That was it. That was basically it for the conduct. Then in the parent student handbook, some little things that we did. So, this past year, having a new staff, we updated the belief statement. So we'll have a new belief statement that will be in effect next year. Dr. Moore and Ms. Spencer both did activities at both campuses to get the teachers' feedback. Because the belief statement is all about the teachers and what they believe and what they feel. So they combined it to one big paragraph, couple of sentences, and that is really reflective of the staff. So that was a great addition that will be in the handbook. Of course, just updating dates, enrollment information for next year, the directory, table of contents, some of those just formatting things. A new school calendar, bell schedule is going to stay the same, just got to, change the years on it. There may be some additions that's not finalized yet with lunches and things like that at the high school. So we're still waiting, to get some more information before we can update that. We updated our tardy policy, trying to tighten up this process, so the teachers know who's responsible for what, so we can jump on tardies early this year. So it doesn't become a habitual thing. Updated some procedures for collecting missing work, so that parents aren't coming to get materials for their students that are out and interrupting the instructional day. So we'll put some things in about when they can pick up missing work. We updated an attendance policy, so that it just matches. It was a little choppy. It didn't flow from K through 12. So we updated that a little bit in there. We updated our behavior matrix. That was really enforced here on the K8 campus. Next year, we are pushing to have that also enforced on the high school campus. So Dr. Morris and Ms. Spencer are working together on that, to make that, cohesive for both campuses, same expectations, just kind of what it looks like on both campuses. We are not having my hot school lunchbox next year for high school students. We will, now that we are settled, we will be extending the same lunch programs that we have here with our local vendors. They will now serve both campuses. We added energy drinks as being part of the prohibited drinks for K8 students. I feel like that was self-explanatory. We updated our outside food policy, to not allow outside food delivery service to deliver student lunches. We have that this year. Parents were ordering lunches for their kids and strangers were bringing them to school.
Like Grubhub?
Like, yes, yes, 100%. So we updated that. Added, so this year there was a lot of feedback, in regards to just conferencing with parents. So we did add an additional face-to-face conference. We only had one in the fall. Now we've added a spring one as well for families. So that will be something we'll do school-wide. Updating report card dates, some promotional information, especially with high school. They were still so trained on, I'm promoted or retained. In high school with credits, it's course, it's, what you get credit for one of the courses that you take. So we updated some of that information to make that make sense to families. We updated some drop bad times, of course, and days, those change every year. Dress code, we went back on this a little bit. We were real reserved, real conservative, trying to make the focus next year 100% academics and not wasting time on crazy stuff like dress code, that takes the kids out of the classroom. So we did make some adjustments here to make it very clear. We spent a lot of time talking about how short shorts were and everything. So this is a little bit different. The update will be that our shorts we want them to be at, 3 inches above the knee or longer. And so that's a big one that we want to make sure. I think we had something like 5 or something before, and it was a little bit short, especially when it sat down. So it was just a lot of distractions there. So 3 inches above the knee, that's where they have to fall. No holes in jeans above the knee. The holes kept getting higher and higher in the jeans, so no holes above the knee. And then we clarified, these crop tops that are popular right now, tried to cut that out, make sure that was clear. And then we did remove, which will be a hot button topic, I know it will be, but we took out yoga pants, leggings, jeggings, and tights. The purpose for that is because our students could not follow instructions and wear shirts or tunics that were below the bottom, which is what the rules were. So we spent a lot of time giving them bridges to wear. So trying to make sure the focus is tightened up a little bit, and that, we're here to learn, you dress for the prep and you come with the right mindset when you come to school. But that was it for the dress code. That's usually a hot button topic with families and things like that, but that was the major changes there. Updated information like applications for the lottery next year. Athletics has some updates in regards to grade checks. She updated that so that she could check that more frequently. So grade checks, we used to do those every progress report, but she's tightening that up a little bit. So the changes that she'd like to do is, every athlete will maintain a C average in all courses. Grade checks will be conducted every 3 weeks of each playing season. When she used to do it just at progress reports, she'd run into an issue of, well, that season just started and they've only been in that for a week. So you're trying to be more equitable across the board. And then she was enforcing some things like when you are suspended in your grade check and your bench, you have to attend tutoring. You don't just get to, not come to practice. So have to attend tutoring if you're grade checked. And then they have to attend team practices so that you can still support your team. And then they would not be allowed to travel, like on the school bus or the bus
Mhm.
with their team. So she just wanted to, make sure things were more equitable, fall season, trying to be equitable to the seasons, to when they start, when they end. And trying to kind of keep track of that. And then making sure that there are expectations, thank you, for the teams and the kids that are grade check and have to be benched. You're still part of that team. You need to support your team. So, she wanted to update that. We added, just to put it in the handbook, we did that on the K-8 campus in January this year, but it is a no phone zone for K-8. So that is going to continue. We saw a total difference in our kids' second semester on this campus, not being head in a phone the whole day. We've tried for the high school, but we do not believe that that is going to be, there's going to be some tightening up on expectations on phones on the high school campus, but it will not be a no phone zone, like the K-8 campus is. And then the last two things that I added, it's not on this list, is we just put in there about background checks. We used to be able to run those on campus for the families, and we can't do that anymore. And I shared that with the families last year, but it wasn't in the handbook. So we want to make sure that it's in there that background checks, are the parent's responsibility to obtain, and renew. And then we did add the verbiage, since this was the first year we've had traveling between both campuses. We added some verbiage in there. We will be passing out like waivers and that emergency packets, those emergency packets at the beginning of the year, where parents give us permission to bring the kids to and from. That was a big one this year, a huge logistics piece. We were constantly traveling between both of these campuses once we were settled. And it was, hey, did you get permission for that? I don't know, did you get permission for that? Like, we had so many opportunities where we brought the high school kids over for different things and different activities and events. We want to kind of we put verbiage in the handbook this year to say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to travel between both campuses. You will have a waiver form. If you don't want your child to travel with us, when we're doing special events, then, feel free to opt out. And that was it for the student and parent handbook.
So for the student parent handbook, this probably goes without saying, but I just want to make sure, because we've had a couple of situations where parents come back and say, well, I didn't understand the consequences and I didn't understand, my child was going to be sent home because she was wearing this or that. Consequences are clearly spelled out. And it's the parents.
We will make sure also that here, Dr. Morris, because she's like telling me where I need to put this, but parents will be responsible for reading and signing off, that they had a copy of the handbook. We're printing hand copies, like hard copies this year, and putting it in their hands.
So like, like an acknowledgement form.
That was very helpful for us.
Mm-hmm.
And again, last year, we tried to be really good about being electronic and saving paper, and we are not doing that this year. We are going back to old school. We're doing paper packets at the beginning of the year, and then we are doing handbooks printed in their hands. So.
Okey doke. Any other questions for student parent? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the parent-student handbook updates? Ms. Merle, second. Ms. Lane, all in favor? Okay. That takes us down to governance. I'm going to make a blanket statement unless anybody corrects me, but since we're at the end of the year, we have no committee updates, correct? Unless Chad, you want to add anything? Okay. Okay, that takes us into a closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session? Oh, hang on.
The title one.
Hold on.
The title.
Oh. Oh, we did.
Does the code of conduct revisions need to be separately voted on?
Is it
Yeah,
part of the
you can.
handbook?
It is part of the handbook. It's attached to it.
To the parent.
It's
Mhm.
It's attached to it. So are we covered or should we? Let's go ahead and do one.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve the code of conduct? Ms. Merle, second. Ms. Foster, all in favor? And then we need to go back to the Title I. I'm sorry. It was in little font, so I missed it. Okay, Ms. Simmons?
I'd just like to request a motion to authorize Heather Barakin to submit the Title I and all federal grant applications to, DP.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Okay, do I have a motion to approve Ms. Verakin for all Title I submissions? Ms. Russell, second, Mr. Huffines, all in favor? Okay, now I think we're ready, right? Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to move into closed session? Ms. Foster, second, Mr. Young, all in favor? We will now move into closed session at 6:29 PM under General Statute 143